Well, welcome to Broadcast Show Live this very hot, beautiful, sunny day in the UK. We have a packed show lined up for you, so stay tuned. Here we go. So a big thank you to our friends at Blackmagic Design for their support and sponsorship of the show. So last month we streamed live from Panasonic's new Solutions Centre in Bracknell, and you can catch up with that show on our YouTube channel, which is TV Bay Broadcast Show. That's all one word, TV Bay Broadcast Show. So if you do visit the YouTube channel, please will you subscribe? Then you'll be able to hear all the new reviews, see new interviews, and of course all the recorded shows that we've uploaded. Everything will be there. Please subscribe, and we need your subscriptions, so go and click that subscribe button. TV Bay has just published issue 79 of the TV Bay magazine, and if your copy hasn't landed yet, it looks a bit like, if it's on shot, that one there. It looks just like that. Here we go. Camera 3 is now going to cut to it. Look at that. That's what it looks like. Keep an eye out for that popping through your mailboxes anytime soon. The main topic of the issue is test and measurement, with emphasis on getting it right from the very beginning of your content creation workflow. It's always best to get it right at the start, as they say. We have one of this month's contributors on the show to help us demystify the black art of digital audio, so stand by for that one. Then we chat with AV3 about visual effects and motion graphics plugins, something that anyone editing these days is sure to need. We also have been to Quantel this very morning to look at 3D printing and how it's possibly changing the face of manufacturing here in the UK. And finally, we finish with a look at Lightworks with our good friend Robbie from EditShare. So let's get this show on the road. Our first guest today, hopefully demystifying the art of digital audio, is Alan Wheable. Thank you very much for coming on.
Hello, thank you.
So Alan, you've kindly written an article for us in this issue of TV Bay. Give us a little overview of what people can expect when they read it.
Okay, well, what we're trying to do is to, as you said, demystify the art of digital audio. These days, broadcasters are presented with a variety of different formats for Dolby, Dolby D, Dolby D Plus, and Dolby E. Many people's experience of audio is from an analog world, where it's quite easy to fault find something. If you've got a crackly cable or a bad microphone, you can quite easily resolve it. When you don't hear something coming out of the end of a transmission line with digital audio, where do you start to look? So, what we're trying to do is to give people an understanding of what's going on, and equip them with the right tools to actually try and resolve issues.
So you mentioned there's different types of Dolby encoding methods. Do you want to go over through some of those and the differences on them? Sure.
Well, the Dolby E is probably the one that most people come into contact with in a production environment. It was designed primarily for production. It's encoded at a high quality, so it will allow further processing in the production requirement if required. It's a video frame-based system, so it allows cuts-only editing. And one of the most important things is that it allows studios to switch the signals without any degradation to the audio. Dolby Digital, on the other hand, is a transmission format. It's intended to be transmitted as a whole program. It was designed primarily for DVD and HDTV, excuse me. And it's got a very high quality audio for surround sound. Now, Dolby Digital Plus has come along now, which has better encoding methods and allows the same quality of audio to come along to be transmitted down the same wire, but at a lower bit rate.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you talked about transmitting down the same wire. We embed this audio into an HD SDI stream.
Yeah.
How is that done?
Okay, so what Dolby is encoded into a stereo AES pair, I suppose. It occupies the. I've got a diagram here. It might make it easier to explain. I shall put it in short. So we have, a typical sort of data burst for the SDI data. You have the picture area, you have the vertical interval here, and you have the horizontal interval down the side. Now, the Dolby data itself is encoded within the SMPTE 337 data burst. It's got a header that defines the type of Dolby encoding that's been used, and it has check bits and check words to make sure that the data is transmitted correctly. Interestingly, the data burst is the same size each frame, regardless of the content.
Right.
So what happens is that the active audio is at the start of the frame, and then the rest of it's padded with zeros.
Gotcha. And that's completely all wrapped up into one cable. Everything comes out, and then you decode and take things out from that cable at the end. One of the questions we had regarding Dolby E was, are there any constraints as to where the switching takes place with this?
So Dolby E, with Dolby E, there's a guard band area, which is in the vertical timecode here, where switching can take place without damaging the Dolby header.
Right.
Now, because it's encoded audio, if you damage the metadata or the header packets, what you get is a large sort of audio burst.
Right.
Because normally, if you can't see the header packet, it resorts to being PCM audio.
Okay.
So therefore, so normally the switching of the signal is on line 21, which is about 700 microseconds from the reference point.
And so you mentioned data burst. What happens when this thing does get corrupted or it's interrupted somehow? What sort of result?
Well, as I mentioned, the metadata within the Dolby packet contains a lot of information about how the Dolby is encoded. It has CRC bits and spacing words, which are used ultimately by the Dolby receiver to mask any dropouts. Now, because of the nature of the encoding, with Dolby E, for example, it will take a whole video frame before the audio will recover. Now, with Dolby Digital and Dolby Digital Plus, the metadata isn't transmitted every video frame, so it may be some time before the audio comes back up. So you may notice on TV where, when a pigeon flies in front of your satellite, that the audio sort of repeats the same frame until it gets the signal back.
Understood. So, I mean, I understand the analog, and I can tell when an analog signal is correct. It's quite obvious. How do you tell if you're getting a digital audio signal, but how can you tell it's actually the correct?
Okay. So as I mentioned, the audio data within the Dolby packet contains a lot of metadata which defines sort of mixed down values and what the program construction is, whether it's 2.1 or 5.1 or whether there's combinations of those. We use tools like the Phabrix SX handheld or the RX rack mount to provide known metadata that we can inject into the SDI data stream, and then we can monitor that in a closed loop to see that the equipment that you're testing is actually passing that without corrupting it.
Gotcha.
You can also, because some dropouts you won't notice, you can actually log to see whether there are sync word errors or data CRC errors over the program, and you can then go back and analyse where that is.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned the SX. Just then, you've got one.
I have one here.
How do these things work and help an engineer who wants to check?
Okay, so this is an SX. This is an SXE. It's got the Dolby option on it. I've got just here a loopback cable. So if you imagine there's a black box that you're testing here. Now what we have from the can you see that? Okay.
We'll get that on the camera.
Okay. So we have the ability in the generator to configure different audio channels, audio configurations. Now, there are numerous numbers of possible combinations, and one of the things that the engineer has to look out for is that a specific program comes in with a configuration that their piece of equipment doesn't recognise, and therefore can't transmit correctly. So we have the ability to select Dolby, Dolby Digital Plus as an encoding method. We can select, for example, here we've got 5.1 as the main program with 2 channels of audio, possibly for voiceover or a different language.
Sure.
We can also here introduce program parameters like the dialogue norm, for example, and different weighting values for the different sort of surround sound matrix. Now, this also could be used for testing equipment that is supposed to handle Dolby to make sure that when you change something here, that the corresponding change occurs on the equipment.
Sure. Yep.
So what we're doing here, we're actually injecting this Dolby information, this Dolby metadata, into the audio packet of the STI data. And because I'm looping back, I can actually look at the audio metadata.
Right.
And now everything is white, saying that it's being transmitted correctly.
Sure.
If it was red, there would be an error.
Gotcha. So various areas where there'd be a problem would highlight in red on here, obviously.
Exactly.
Straight through. There's nothing interfering with it. It comes in. So you can pinpoint exactly where the error is.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you've got chains of equipment, you can work your way and
Yes,
find out
right.
what
you start at the beginning and work back or whatever.
Excellent. So you do the handheld SX version here. You also, as you say, you do a rack mount version as well?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So we provide 4 module slots, which can be custom as analyzers or generators, whatever. So you have the ability to generate a Dolby signal and then analyze the results, or just monitor the Dolby.
Gotcha. Yeah. And of course, your equipment does more than just analyze audio as well. It does a lot more. Yes, this is just part of the functionality of the SX and the other series. Alan, thank you very much for coming on again. Thank you for writing the article.
Thank you.
If people want to find out some more about Phabrix and the test and measurement equipment that you guys can provide, is there a website they can go to?
Certainly. The Phabrix website is www.phabrix.com.
Brilliant, Alan. Thank you very much for coming on. So if you want to find out some more, go and have a look at the website. Don't forget to make sure you get your copy of TV Bay, where Alan's detailed article about all things digital audio is in that as well. So again, thank you for coming on. Well, next up we have Ian from AV3 Software. But while we get him mic'd up, and if you've ever wondered about what all this fuss is with 3D printing, well, we went to Quantel earlier this morning. So have a quick look at this. Well, I've popped round the corner from BroadcastShow Towers to Quantel here in Newbury, and we're going to go in and have a look at a new item of equipment they've recently purchased to help them with their R&D and manufacturing process. So let's pop inside and have a look. Well, here I am with David Throop here, and we are in the manufacturing area of your rather large Quantel building that you've got here in Newbury. Now we're going to talk about these items over here. Now this is a new 3D printer that you've got. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you have here, and then we'll sort of go into a bit more detail why you're using it?
Yes, sure, no problem at all. Shall I hold this for the time being? So we took the option earlier this year to purchase a system from a company called Stratasys. And the Stratasys is a 3D printing system that prints in ABS plastic. And the reason that we went into buying it is all down to the fact that we wanted to shorten development cycle times. But the system is here, if you want to have a look and see. And in essence, it consists of 2 distinct items. One is a PC to drive it. And here you can see a component that is being made ready to print. And then there is the printer itself. Now, deceptively simple, really. You can just treat it as you would treat an office desktop laser printer, but instead of printing in 2D on a sheet of paper, as you can see inside here, we have some 3D pieces that have been printed overnight.
So, as you say, you can treat it similar to an office printer, but obviously it doesn't use ink. So, if people don't know a lot of people see these 3D printers and think, how on earth does it print a 3D object? So what material is it printing in, and how does it work?
So the printer takes 2 spools of material. Excuse me, I'll just close this door. This white material is a support mechanism that allows it to support overhanging structures. And this is fed into the container at this side over here. And then there is a spool of build material. In this case, it's red, but we have a choice of colours available to us. So we can have it in red or black or green or blue. And that is another spool that lives in this side over here. Both of those this is ABS plastic. And this material here is a special concoction that is soluble in a kind of a citric washing solution. And elsewhere, where there is a water supply, we have a washing station that will effectively take the manufactured component and wash off the support base that's been built underneath it.
Right, so but if you have something that is effectively going to be suspended inside, it would be effectively, while printing, suspended by this white, and then that's washed away, leaving something perhaps loose inside. When you see the ball on the inside of a box or something, the typical one that they use this sort of solution.
That's correct. Yeah.
So obviously it has to be moulded somehow. Does it melt this ABS plastic in order to do this?
Yes. So what we can see here, in fact, on the end of this reel here, you can see that the material itself is about 1.5 millimeters diameter. But on the very tip here, you can see a very thin section that's approximately 1/4 millimeter diameter. And the way that it gets to that is that it is heated inside a nozzle. Here is the nozzle, and effectively the material is fed down. Oops, it's okay. The inside of this nozzle, and is heated and is extruded through a very small jet in the very end here. And the whole mechanism is controlled by an XY gantry inside here. And inside you can see this gantry, and the gantry moves in X, Y, and Z. And slowly this table moves down. Objects themselves are built on an overall support base, which is this black structure. So the black structure is, if you like, the foundation for everything. The white material is the support for the built items, and then you have the build material on the top of everything.
So as far as the size of the item that you can build in a machine like this, obviously you're restricted by this side, the support base, and height-wise on this machine?
We can build up to 6 inches on this machine. So it's 8 inches by 8 inches by 6 inches. This is an American system, so it's in inches. But in essence, we chose this because it was likely to be big enough for almost everything we'd want to do.
So as we're on to what you're going to manufacture in it, what do you actually use this machine for? Are you using it for prototyping, for manufacturing?
Okay, so over the course at the beginning of this year, I was looking at the amount of money we were spending in prototyping mechanical components. And the components that we were buying, we were having made out. So the mechanical design, which is essentially this, had been done, and that's a fixed time for that component. Then we were sending the files away. Then we were having them produced and shipped back to us. Then we would test them, look at them, play with them, decide that they needed changing, and it would go off, and every cycle would take 10 days.
Right.
And that was just way too long. It was going to take months to get through some of the projects. So we thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And so we investigated a 3D printer as a solution. And so these components here are not intended for full production, but they are mechanically accurate enough to allow us to actually test the form and fit. But the material, being ABS plastic, is not necessarily as strong as the real molded material, but at least you can make sure that everything works up to this point.
So as far as accuracy is concerned, these are accurate enough to prove that the design works in the final manufactured piece?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I have here an example which is a mechanical clutch assembly. So this is a combination of white plastic parts in this occasion. Even the shaft in the center here has been printed. And the whole assembly sits inside here. There are some black printed parts with springs. There are bearings in here, and everything was printed on this machine, to the normal spec that you'd expect to make an injection welding tool from, and then just assembled and tested. To make this was 3 hours.
Right.
To have it done externally would have been a minimum of 10 days and many thousands of pounds. So the fact that we can actually make this, material cost for this would have been about £2, plus £3 for the base, so it's a trivial cost compared to the task of sending it outside.
And the advantage to Quantel is obviously the speed of development for new parts, new designs. You can get them out quicker.
Yes, exactly so. Part of it is about speed, the fact that we can now afford to fiddle a little more than we used to do. But we can also save costs as well, so we're saving a huge amount of money. Now, admittedly, we have the capital cost of the equipment, but I estimate that even at this point in the year, we've only had it for 6 months now, I think it has already paid for itself in money that we have saved by being able to prototype in-house rather than outside.
So a worthwhile investment for Quantel then.
Oh yes, very definitely, yes, absolutely.
And where do you see things going with 3D printing? I mean, obviously you're using it here for prototyping. Things have always been developed at a massive rate of knots. You're doing it yourself. Yes. Do you see a bigger future for 3D printing, even perhaps eventually moving to manufacturing?
Yes, absolutely true. We're already discovering that we can make use of this for making jigs and tools. And in fact, for example, this is a tool for moulding soft rubber components. So even though the material we print with is ABS plastic, the actual finished product that comes out of here is a soft rubber gasket. So we can make use of it to make things that you just need a few of, but would be next to impossible to get in any other way. So there are items that we make that are for production tooling use. There are items that we make that are prototyping for future production systems. So these will be part of a new system that we're developing. And there are parts that we make that are just speculative developments, just because we can see how things might work in the future.
David, that's very interesting. Thank you for letting us come and have a look here at your facilities. Always very impressive. You want to find out a bit more about Quantel, obviously, go and have a look at their website. In the meantime, I'm going to hand back to the studio. Well, thank you, John, for passing us back to me in the studio. And here we are again. I hope you enjoyed that. A little insight into how Quantel are using their 3D printer. I still think we should get one here. I've got to find a use for it, though. In the meantime, we have Ian Easton with us. Hi, Ian.
How do you do?
Very good. Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure to be here.
We are going to talk a little bit about AV3 Software.
Indeed.
Now, for those who don't know, tell us, for a start, about AV3 Software.
AV3, we're a motion graphics and visual effects plugin distributor.
Yep.
So we distribute some of the world's leading motion graphics plugins from companies like Red Giant, Video Copilot, Pixelogic, things like that. Right. And we distribute all around the world.
So nowadays, there are so many different types of plugins, so many different types of systems out there. And it used to be that you could go to a place and you'd buy something and then something would come through the post and you have a nice box and things like that. Is it still like that now?
No, it's not. We think that's, although some companies still do that, we think that's a little bit antiquated. We distribute electronically.
Right.
There's only a few of us in the company, and that's why we're able to distribute across the globe efficiently. Our store's instant access, and we don't want a motionographer, for example, to be on a really important project with a strict deadline and have to wait a week to receive their Red Giant trap code suite, for example. So they log in with us, they buy it, they get a download link, and they get it straight away that day. Also, it's obviously ecologically sustainable as well.
Of course. And so if, I do jobs and we go out and sometimes you have a client who wants us to do a quick edit on something, you've got a different machine, and you need to get the plugin that you know has the effect you want. The beauty of your system is they can then log in, purchase it, download it, or if they've already purchased it, can they still access?
It depends what version they have and whether it's works on whatever they have. But basically they have their own, on our site they have their own profile. They can get sometimes free upgrades, for example, and things like that.
So they can go in, if they know they've purchased trap code, particularly something like that, they need to get it on that machine for a job. They've got their license codes. They're licensed to do that.
Yes, they'll have their serial number.
They can then
They
just
can
put
just
it on
then
there.
put
They
it
don't have to
on
worry about boxes.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the advantage to us consumers on this must be price. You're not having to ship via the postal services boxes and things like that. How does it help out on the pricing on these?
Yes, of course. Therefore, we have less overheads and we
Yeah.
can be more competitive in the market. It's also quicker, which is better all round in
Yeah.
terms of the transaction process and the speed of download, things like that.
Gotcha. Now, if people have questions, a lot of the time they think, right, I got a Red Giant suite or something like that. They think, I'll go to Red Giant and buy it, get the box through or whatever, and all that sort of stuff, because they know they can get support on it. How does support work with yourself?
We're constantly striving to keep the products up to date,
Yep.
and we work closely with the manufacturers and in turn hopefully keep our clients up to date. We all know that in this world of motion graphics, everything's updated pretty much
Yes.
daily and weekly, so
Yep.
we have to keep on top of it, and sometimes it is a challenge. But we've got a good rapport with the manufacturers that we distribute for, and they tend to keep us abreast pretty
Right, so
all
all
the time.
so all updates and things like that.
Yes, of course,
I think at least they can find out whether they're available,
Yeah.
from, whether
Yeah,
it's direct.
yeah.
from
We've got a newsletter on the site.
Right.
You can subscribe to that.
Yeah.
There's bi-monthly newsletters that go out, and they include details on any promos or updates and everything like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Adobe have gone to subscription-based.
Yes.
I believe we're going to be talking to some other people over the next few months, and I know their software is going subscription-based.
yeah.
How's that going to work with plugins and things these days?
It's a tricky one. It's something we're looking into.
Yeah.
We understand that motion graphics and visual effects is predominantly project-based, right? So you have these guys. They might only want a certain effect for a certain period of time, and they don't want to fork out the money
Yeah.
to pay for the whole suite. And with the products evolving as they are, coupled with us being electronic download,
Yeah.
we're kind of looking at beginning supporting sales to customers on an as and when needed
Yeah.
basis. So it's something we're certainly looking into. Watch this space, basically.
Right. Well, before I ask about what the future holds for you guys, do you want to give us some idea? Because I know we will get asked what sort of plugins and the manufacturers who you are currently supplying.
Yes, they're very bespoke. So it can range from somebody wanting something to help with setting up their time signatures,
Yep.
to even generating whole cityscapes,
Right.
and explosions and things like that. And a good one at the moment is Pixelogic's ZBrush.
Right.
I believe they were used to animate some of the figures on PlayStation's The
Right.
Last of Us. So it's a wide range.
Yep.
There's so many things.
Yep.
Cityscapes, explosions, lens flare, all the way down to time code
Brilliant.
stuff.
And all the regular plugin manufacturers you guys can supply, so Red Giant.
All of them, yeah.
And Video Copilot, for example, is
Yeah,
well
Boris
known.
Effects,
Yeah.
Pixelogic. Yeah.
So if they want to find basically a plugin,
We sell it.
you sell it.
Yeah.
Excellent. You mentioned off camera a little while ago. There's some new things happening with your site, and what's looking forward? What's up?
I believe we have a screenshot. Screenshot number 2 or 3 that I
There
sent
it
you
is.
should be on the screen. This is a world first. Nobody's seen this before. Basically, we're looking to improve the user experience.
Sure.
I mean, we know we are a download store.
Yep.
And there's one specific thing that we do. People come to the store, they buy, they
Yeah.
go. We wanted to streamline the user experience and enable people to be equipped faster.
Yep.
And that includes store drop downs and things like that, and a much more accessible way of viewing and purchasing products.
Brilliant.
So that should be live once we get the HTML code through in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Brilliant. Ian, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
If people do want to find out more about you guys and obviously have a look at all the plugins that you guys supply,
Yep.
and obviously it's the older website now, but the new one's on its way.
Yeah,
What's the address?
It's www.av3software.com.
Brilliant. Ian, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Go and have a look at their website. If you are looking for a plugin, I suspect they may have it. So have a look at their website, and obviously keep coming back to it because the new one's going to be up very shortly. While we wait for Robbie to come on, you've possibly been watching this via the Broadcast Show website. And we've been working with our development team and designers over the last few months ourselves. In a few weeks, we will have the grand unveiling of a fresh new look Broadcast Show website. And this will give you easy access to over 500 show interviews, reviews, and of course, these recorded live shows. So go and have a look there. Keep that as a favorite so you can always get back to it. And also don't forget to search out TV Bay Broadcast Show. Now, I'm just going to look over to Mark. Do we have a link that we can put up? We do. There's a little link there. That will take you straight to the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Please click it, especially if you've got a YouTube account of any kind, and click the subscribe button. I am sure we will do something in your favor at some point, but only if you are a subscriber of the YouTube channel. So click that or go to that link as soon as you possibly can after the show, though. Finish the show first and then go and do that. In the meantime, he's getting himself ready. We've chatted to him many times before, but this time in his new guise. First time on the show, I do believe, Robbie, as Lightworks. I believe, actually on the live show.
Yeah. It's the first time I've visited here, so it's nice.
First time here.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. We've met loads of times at the trade shows.
Yes.
We finally dragged you along. So you work for Lightworks.
Yes.
And there's probably a number of people going out there thinking, I've heard of them. Where have I heard of Lightworks? Tell us a little bit about Lightworks.
Lightworks has a really long history, and I think that's a good place to start. So Lightworks has been around about 20 years, and it was one of the first non-linear editors. EastEnders used it as one of their first non-linear experiences to actually do EastEnders. So, and it really came from the film world. And that's really what it's known, and that's still used in the film world today. So that's a really good thing, and it really comes from. If we bring the jog shuttle in here. So this was the console that we used, and we've used almost since day one. And it gives them the ability for Lightworks to be almost operated with one hand through the whole edit process, and actually cut and fill. And what you do get, you get a very tactile feel to how the edit goes, and you engage with the picture. So. A lot of the film editors and that's still like that because they're actually, rather than actually playing with keyboard or mouse, they can actually engage just by moving frame by frame based on the console. So really we come from that. And in the early years, we were very much based on a bespoke system. So you brought a bespoke system, it was X amount of dollars or stroke pounds, and that then gave you a full system. Lightworks then changed manufacturers quite a few times, and it changed in its guise, how it was sold and such like. So, and then what happened about 4 years ago is EditShare, who I actually work for, they brought it, and what they wanted to do with it is how do we deliver that to the masses? How do we actually get everyone to use it? It's a good, solid software. It's been running for about 20 years. The actual process and the workflow that it's been used is there already. It's used for feature films and solid, so how do we get that to other people? Now, one of the problems with that is obviously the console was one of the main parts of that and how that's used. What we wanted to do, or what we looked to do, is how do we take that and put it in today's editing world? So the first thing, just grab this down here, is we had to look at the software and add in complete keyboard functionality, because now most people edit on a keyboard. So one of our development over the last 4 years is not just to make a coloured keyboard, but is actually to make the functionality where people can, if they're coming say from an Avid or they're coming from Premiere, they can jump onto our software and do the same drag and drop experience or keyboard shortcuts to the point that we have a completely customizable keyboard. But also you can log in as an Avid editor or a Final Cut editor, so you can jump straight on and work, and it just works. So, and the same with the mouse. If you're a mouse editor, then you can actually do the same.
So you're you're not restricted to using your particular console. You now, if you want to use keyboard mouse, you can use.
So we've over the 4 years where we've sort of been really is how do we change that software? Now, one of the biggest steps in that is also by giving the experience the person has within the software is one, but two then is delivering to the right OSs.
Yes.
So we've committed ourselves to actually going towards Windows as our first release,
Yep.
and then Linux,
Yep.
and then also delivering with the Mac.
Right.
Now, I'm never asked about the Mac,
Of course not. Never.
but it is one of those people always ask us. So our commitment then is to put it across all the major OSs.
Right.
Present day, we've been running just over a year now on a physical release of 3.0,
Yep.
11.03,
Yep.
and we've recently gone to 11.1, which is a major upgrade
Right.
across the Windows side, which has added loads of new functions in, and that actually happened just about a month and a half ago. And that's went really well. So
Brilliant.
that's good.
Now, I always heard sort of on the grapevine that, probably know what I'm going to ask you. Isn't Lightworks, didn't that go out open source or something?
Okay, so this is a good question, because a lot of people come to me at shows and go, isn't it free? Isn't it open source?
Yes.
We have a free version,
Right.
but realistically, we want people to go to the pro version. And
Sure.
the pro version is affordable. Let's put it
Right.
like that. We'll go
Yeah.
pricing in a minute, but
Yeah.
it's an affordable product, but it also has all the features that most people would actually want.
Right.
So our free version
Yep.
is cut down.
Yep.
It only does something. You have to transcode to get some footage in and such like so. But the pro version is native on the timeline. It will take most, if not all, media from most cameras that
Yep.
you would expect a broadcaster or filmmaker to use, all the way up from an iPhone, all the way up to a Red or an Alexa. It will take all that footage in, no problem, and actually work with it. So that's the nice thing.
Yep.
But that's only available in Pro. So
Right. Well, go on.
as for the open source, yes, we want to go to open source. So yes, we are going towards that. So we will release the code at some point.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't include things like codecs and such like, because
Sure.
we have to pay for those.
Absolutely.
So there'll always be a paid for version.
Right.
We really are a commercial company, and
Yep,
a
sure.
lot of people get confused open source but not being commercial.
Yeah.
It is for us. We are to sell our product. We are looking at how we sell our product.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into costs and things shortly. However, one question I've got to ask, I mean, there's a lot of non-linear editing systems out there now. What makes Lightworks, in your opinion, so good?
I mean, I've worked with lots of non-linear
Yeah.
companies, and
Yeah.
I know most of them.
Yep.
Vegas, Edition, a long time ago now, FCP, and I've also worked with Avid as well.
Yep.
So, what I find with Lightworks is actually very good at actually just editing.
Sure.
It's a very good cutter.
Yeah.
It enables you, especially with the console, you suddenly get into this mode where you're just looking at pictures and cutting,
Right.
and I think that's really what it gives you. It's very quick.
Yeah.
And it's also very stable. I think as an editor, it can stand alongside all the main broadcast editors that are out there
Right.
and actually run them for features.
Right.
So
Because I was talking to an editor at NAB, and one of the things that hit me is he says it doesn't get in the way of the creativity side. You don't have to work your way through the application itself, the program itself,
Yeah.
to be creative. You can literally,
we have no menu structure,
you can just
so therefore
straight to it.
you are completely working
Yeah.
on the picture as such. And definitely, if you're a keyboard person, JKL, we've got JKL trimming, we've got
Yep.
all the trimming function. I mean, we're known for our trimming.
Yep.
And that's a really big one. And I think that's a lot of people remember that when
Yep.
they come up to us at the show. They remember the console and they remember how we used to trim.
Yeah.
We don't have to click at a tool to get to that. You just click on what you want to do. And whether you've got 15 layers of audio with effects all in there and,
Yeah.
and video, you can actually trim the bits you want to keep them all in sync.
Right.
And then if anything is knocked out of sync, it tells you what's out of sync. And then you
Yep.
either say, actually, I meant to knock them out 18 frames relative to the audio. And then you can say, okay, if not, or you can return it back. So,
Brilliant.
which is fine.
So people are interested in getting hold of the software. How does it work? How do you, if it's not open source, you're not giving it away, as you say, you're selling it to get the full pro
Yeah.
product. How do people purchase this?
Well, simply, we didn't want to go to the model where you buy the whole system,
Yep.
and then every month we actually try and get you to upgrade to get new features.
Sure.
We think that's quite an old model and actually sort of going out the door. And if you look at things like Dropbox,
Yep.
Evernote,
Yep.
everyone's going either to a yearly or monthly fee, and we've
Yep.
seen the same with Premiere and such like. So before Premiere released theirs, actually,
Yeah.
we actually come out with the pricing structure of it's £40 for a year.
Right.
Now, £40 gives you the full Pro bundle.
Okay.
That's it, the whole Pro bundle. The accessories like the keyboard and the jog shuttle, obviously they're
Sure.
extra as well. But so what we want for us as a company, if we can actually get people to pay a minimal cost, which is what, £3 a month.
Yep.
It's not even a McDonald's.
Yep.
We can then keep people up to date.
Yep.
Now, the latest software, help support any new features, we can actually deliver them as well. So going back to what we wanted to give everybody else was everybody accessible to a really good software. That price actually allows everybody. You know, everyone says, is it free? Well, actually, at that price point, it almost is.
It almost is. And as you say, so that is a effectively like a subscription type service. Does that
Correct.
That will, once you're paying that and you continue to pay that, you will always get the latest version.
Absolutely. So
of
as
the
soon as we add any features,
Yep.
they just add straight into the product.
So
I mean, one thing I would say there,
Yep.
there's a lot of people, yearly.
Yeah.
A software only lasts for a certain amount of time.
sure.
With the way we can actually buy online and talk to your last customer
Yeah.
was the same, is we are completely based on online. And
Yeah.
that's how we can get to that price point. But also, if you want to make a capital investment of, say, 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
you can buy that in one go.
Right.
So therefore, you will have the up-to-date software for 3/5 years. You've
Yeah.
already paid your investment out. So you don't just buy on a yearly, you can buy it in advance if you want to as well.
Knowing that from then onwards, you're sorted basically for the latest version.
Most softwares don't last that long anyway.
Yeah.
So you'd have to update.
Excellent. Now, so you've got this. What can we look forward to over the next 12 months with Lightworks?
We're looking. Our main thing is to get all the OSs released. So we are presently released on Windows.
Yep.
Linux is in public beta, and
Yep.
what we've been looking to do is we presently have .deb, which is actually used for Mint and for Ubuntu.
Yep.
So that's in public beta now. We've been asked for Fedora, which is a RPM, so that's coming in the beta, and that should be available in the next month or so for people to try.
Yep.
We've also just changed our complete licensing system to an in-house version from an off-the-shelf version.
Right.
That's taken a little bit longer than we actually expected. What that's given us, one, it's so simple to get into the software now. You just log in
Yep.
or sign into the software, and you're straight into the software. You can allocate your licenses really simply as well. The other thing is it will give us the ability to give a month trial.
Yep.
And so if anyone wants to try the software, you get a full month of Pro. You can just download it. All you need to do is sign into our website,
Right.
allocate it to the machine you're using, and off you go.
Brilliant. Now, I've just had, obviously, we've got a chat room and Twitter and things like that, and people asking, say, can we have another quick look at the controller?
Yeah.
So if you want to just give us a quick overview of this baby.
It's actually really simple. So maybe next time we come down, we actually do a full a full demo, and probably easier. So the great thing about the console is here's your normal sort of shuttle control. So you can zoom through the timeline fairly quickly using those. It can be right hand or left hand relative, because it really doesn't. It works both ways.
Yep.
The way it works is that's stop, but it's also shift.
Okay.
If I want to go back one speed, I go 2 speeds, 4 speeds, 8 speeds, so I can zoom down the timeline that way as well. If I want to stop, I press stop. Shift will also allow me to, if I hold that, and that would do frame by frame.
Gotcha.
So very, very simple.
Yep.
And the same with forward and backwards, obviously. And then you basically have your controllers. So basically within here, you can then set up your mark. We don't have an out point normally. Sure. We mark it, and then wherever you finish is your out point.
Yep.
You can swap between the in point and the out point. So therefore, if you need to adjust the in point to get the right picture based on the end shot as such, you can swap it, and then so your mark in and your mark out are right. And then basically you can then insert. So we've got replace, which is overwrite in Avid. So insert, we have remove and delete. So you either pull it out the timeline and such like. These ones here can allow me to actually, you can set them out as you like, but I normally set them up so I can actually jump through the bin. So if I've got a bin open with, say, 50 shots in it, I can jump through those bins. I can play them from here. I can inpoint them, find my out point, put it into the timeline.
Gotcha.
I don't even need to put it into the source reader. So very, very quick, very easy to use. And then if you're in the timeline, you can jump through the timeline using these two here. And then using this one, you can actually do the in point and the out point to actually do your trim.
Gotcha.
If you want to trim the in and the out, you press that one and that one, and that would hold the outgoing point of the the last clip
Yep.
and the in-point saver, you can actually move them together and
Gotcha.
do S cuts and L cuts, or
So
J cuts and L cuts. So.
It truly is for getting the content on the timeline, cutting it, getting the flow that you want.
Oh, absolutely.
All one-handed and very quick.
It's quite amazing to use, but all those are actually also put in onto the keyboard as well.
Yeah.
So if you do come from the keyboard and you use, so like, on Avid, a JKL trimming was always.
Yep.
Everyone said, "Oh, that's brilliant. We can do that. Absolutely no problem. You can set up as just like an Avid keyboard if you want to, or you can use our presets as well."
Brilliant. Robbie, thank you very much
No
for
problem.
a great overview of Lightworks. If people want to find out some information, have a look, download the demo for their month.
If you come to the website, it's www.lwks.com, and all the information is there.
Brilliant.
We just added a load of things called sharp bites. Actually, they're very
All right.
small,
Yep.
bite-size informations are where you can actually learn about certain parts of the software. So there
Yep.
are 3 or 4 different sharp points for different parts of the software, so you can actually learn how
Right.
to
So if you
use
want
it.
to download it, get into it straight away,
Absolutely.
you've got little videos.
Yeah,
of people
and
show
we're
you
going
how
to
do
build
things.
upon that. We have a good community, so we have
Yeah.
a forum there. If you have a question, go in the forum. If it's not answered within an hour or so, I'm very surprised.
Brilliant.
So-
Robbie, thank you very much
That's
for
right.
coming out. Go and get yourself a copy of Lightworks. It is exceptionally good. My 14-year-old son is now editing quite happily with his copy of Lightworks. I can tell you, he rushes out videos quicker than I could possibly imagine with it. It's brilliant. So go and have a look. It is a fantastic piece of software. We are coming to the end of the show. Next time, we will be streaming live from IBC in Amsterdam, where we will have a 2-hour chat show each day of the show, direct from Europe's largest gathering of content creation, management, and delivery of electronic media and entertainment. If you haven't heard of IBC, look it up. There's something wrong. If you haven't, we'll be there. A quick big thank you to our kit sponsors. We've got Panasonic, who are providing the cameras. We have an AF101, we have an HPX 250, and we have an HPX 600. Serialite, who's doing the lighting. Sound Networks for DPA cheap mics, which are these little babies here. AutoCue, of course, have been providing us with our studio switcher and prompting. Vinton and Ian Nero for the camera support. Unicol for that beast behind me, holding up that beast there. And Argosy, who have given us all the cabling infrastructure as well. And, of course, Stream UK, who you are watching this through right now if you're watching it live. And, of course, we are being transmitted via satellite, IP satellite, which is provided by Tarium on their two-way system. So go and have a look at that. Watch out for the new website. As I said before, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link is coming up again. I've just made Mark rush to find the lower third. And, of course, enjoy the summer. It's very hot out there. It's going to be warm for a while yet. Make the most of it. So that's goodbye from me for today. And we will see you live from Amsterdam in September. Have a good summer.